99.9% of folks should never, ever buy individual stock. You guys should buy the S&P and go on and mind your business because you're not going to do the due diligence. You're not going to study. You're not going to take the time to evaluate companies and make sure you're buying a good company. So with that being said, go buy the S&P and mind your business. What's up, people? Welcome to this episode of the Buy the Hood podcast or webcast because I don't know how you're consuming this content. I'm your host as always. My name is Jimmy, and as we start off every show, that's with gratitude. Just want to say thank you to everyone who supports our movement, as well as all of the students from Buy the Hood University, the youth from the Buy the Hood Ownership Camp, as well as all of our members from the MDC Strategy Group. And shout out to all the other classes that we're out here teaching. Shout out to Sankofa. Shout out to the Sharswood Neighborhood Association. We want to give everybody a shout out.
Yes, we can. Shout out.
Shout out to Yes We Can. They in the building as well. Listen, man, I got my partner in crime, Core. Core, what's up, good brother?
What it really is, though. No, what's up, though?
Like, everything good, man?
Yeah, man. Life is good, man. When life is good, you don't get to complain too much, man.
Yeah, man. So, this episode, right? Another episode of our pod, as you know, our new format. We're just gonna come on and ramble about a couple things that we want to talk about. Shout out to anybody who supported the last podcast. We talked about Bitcoin and went off on a tangent about Corey's gambling habits, but it's all good.
Easy, young Jeezy.
And today we're going to talk about a magazine that dropped. It was the Better Investing magazine. So for those who don't know, Corey and I are members of an investment group. We pull our resources together and we buy investments. Shout out to all of our members from IBB. That's the name of our investment group, I Buy Black Investment Group. So we pull our resources together. We buy stock on the stock market. We've invested in small businesses. We own equity in some small businesses. So we're doing a lot of different things, cryptocurrency, but we do it as a group. And we have an all-black investment group that's very powerful. If you want information about that, hit us up. I'll get you information about that. But part of what we do is we subscribe to Better Investing, which is a financial journal. And, they kind of help as it pertains to investment groups. And their newest magazine talked about the top 100 stocks owned by investment groups. Because the thing about Better Investing is not just us, right? So Better Investing deals with investment groups literally all over the world. And they, did a poll just to see what are the top stocks that are owned by investment clubs. So we're going to talk about that. I'm going to pull up and we're going to talk about what some of the holdings are. I also want to say that anything you hear in here is not financial advice. It's for educational and informational purposes only. We are not your fiduciary or financial advisors. If you're looking for financial help, please get yourself a fiduciary or financial advisor. But you're still going to have this conversation, man. Corey, did you get a chance to read the article, bro?
I did.
Okay. Before I pull up and look at the holdings, what were some of your thoughts?
I wasn't surprised by anything.
Nothing at all surprised you?
Nothing. Because I know about human nature, so nothing. There was nothing that stood out so much that I was surprised by it. There were some things that stood out, but nothing that stood out surprisingly stood out.
Okay. All right. That's cool. So, and for those who have no idea what I'm talking about, here is the magazine. It's Better Investing. Make sure I cover my damn address. But the top 100 holdings of investment clubs. For those that are listening to the audio, I'm actually showing what the magazine looks like. So, it's the headline article for this month's magazine, the top 100 companies, right? So keep in mind that when you're buying stock, you're buying equity in a company, right? So that's what the magazine looks like. Also, something else I want to say real quick before we get into this, right? Because I get criticized for saying this, so I want to say it again to get criticized again. 99.9% of folks should never, ever buy individual stock. You guys should buy the S&P and go on and mind your business because you're not going to do the due diligence. You're not going to study. You're not going to take the time to evaluate companies and make sure you're buying a good company. So with that being said, go buy the S&P and mind your business. All right, so now that I got that out the way, let's talk about what are the top 100 holdings of, all right.
We both read this, John. So
yeah, but so I'm just going to pull it up so we can talk about it, right? So obviously this is not shocking at all what number one is, right?
Not at all.
Number one. And the funny thing is, there's only three that got over 1,000 clubs that are that have purchased it, right? So they hit the 4-digit mark in terms of number of clubs. Number 1 is Apple. Not shocking at all, right?
Nope.
Number 2 is Amazon. And
Not
number 3 is
shocking at
Google.
all.
Number 3 is Google, right? And those, if you look at the numbers, right, and they're on the screen, for those listening to the audio, just understand that Apple, Amazon, and Google, or Alphabet, as their companies called, are the top 3 companies in terms of what investment clubs.
Yeah, number of clubs.
Yeah, number of clubs, right? So it's the number 1 holding. But if you look at the estimated values owned by clubs, bro, it's very high. Now, following up by Microsoft, Visa, Disney, Costco, Home Depot. So you're seeing all the names NVIDIA.
But by value, Microsoft is second. So the number of clubs that own it is Apple, Amazon, Alphabet. But by total value, Microsoft is second. Because
but that's because of Microsoft's price.
because Microsoft, is that work.
It's their price too. Like, it's their price that goes into that calculation, right? So none of those things are shocking, right? Because this almost reads like the Fortune 500.
Literally.
Yeah, and you see a lot of names that within these top, right? So Procter and Gamble, Ford Motor Company. What I find interesting about this is, if you are part of the point, if you are part of that, it's not 1%, the 0.1% that should invest in stock. This is a great place to start to evaluate companies, right?
Yeah. This is fire.
It is. This is a crazy nice portfolio, right? And I'll read over the top 20. Let me read the top 20 for our audio folks. I want to make sure I give you the top 20. Apple, Amazon, Alphabet, Microsoft, Visa, Disney, Costco, Home Depot, NVIDIA, Johnson & Johnson, Tesla, Berkshire Hathaway, Starbucks, Pfizer, Intel, Pepsi, Meta, AbbVie, Walmart, and CVS. Now, the one thing that was shocking to me a little bit, Core, was how far down Meta is.
Yeah, I'm not shocked by that.
It shocked me a little bit. I'm gonna tell you why it shocked me a little bit, because I assumed that Fang would be at the top.
Nah, I didn't.
And also, we didn't mention Netflix, did we? So Netflix is not up here either. So I just assumed that Fang would be at the top. I did, because because of its popularity. That's why it's the acronym.
There's only one company in that top 20 that I wouldn't buy. I wouldn't touch with a 2,000-foot pole.
Let me try a guess before you tell me. Ford.
It's not in the top 20.
Oh, all right. I'm sorry. I'm looking at, what is Ford? Ford is
21. Ford's 21.
Top 20 that you wouldn't buy
at all.
At all. Tesla.
Yep. Wouldn't touch it. Wouldn't touch it. Couldn't make me buy it.
All right, so I wouldn't say that, right? But again, I'm not a big individual stockholder. As much as I talk about investing in things,
I'm just saying, there's 2 reasons why I wouldn't buy it. One, it doesn't pay a dividend. Secondly, I don't like the way boy do business. Like, it's too dependent. Like, it's like a church. Like, it's too dependent on one person. Like,
I got you.
So like the actual company, whatever, they make a lot of promises that go unkept, but he is it's too much power for one dude. Like, if something go wrong with him, or
I understand what you're saying.
Like, that's too much individual. That's too much. It's too much hinging on the individual.
You sound like dude in the Malcolm X movie. Like, one man shouldn't have that much power, right?
Yeah.
Right, now let me go from 21
to 40
to 40, right? So we got Ford, Procter and Gamble, PayPal, Lowe's, Cisco Systems, Netflix, McDonald's, Stryker Corp, healthcare company, Verizon, Caterpillar, Advanced Micro Devices, AMD, United Healthcare, Target, ExxonMobil, Boeing, Abbott Laboratories, Dollar General, Aflac, Merck, and Qualcomm. Nothing shocking there?
Nah, except the only thing shocking there is that Procter and Gamble is so low.
Yeah. How about that?
Yeah, like, for me, Procter and Gamble is a top 5 DOA. But that's just me.
I know. I'm just listening to you, give you a perspective.
That's just top 5 DOA. You know what I mean? Because like you got to think about all the billion-dollar companies that's under Procter and Gamble. Like they're
Now,
so. What I will say about that is that it gives Procter and Gamble something that I like, which is a moat. You know what I mean? Like, so some of those other companies that are ahead of it don't have the same moat as they do.
So
it doesn't grow as fast as those other companies, though.
So I'm gonna give you something else that shocked me in reading through this article and reading the list. Right, the first one is that Meta wasn't at the very top with all the rest of Fang, as well as Netflix. This other one here, if we go through 41 to 50, let me just read off 41 to 50. Right, so 41 is Raytheon Technologies, Salesforce, J.P. Morgan, Skyworks, AT&T, Coca-Cola, Southwest. What's that? Fastenal. What's the other one? Nextra.
Knee is a utility joint.
Okay. By the way, because I'm trying to read this as I'm still got our screen up, so it's kind of crazy right now. But number 50 is what shocked me. Nike being number 50 is shocking. Now, granted, we're talking about the top 100 companies, so that's still an accomplishment. But Nike being 50 is wild. Something I'll tell you guys. Me and Corey have taught classes when it comes to the youth. Up and down the East Coast, all over the place. And we do this thing with our classes where we talk about brands. And there are two brands that always come at the top of mind for every kid. And this is kid ages 5 to 25. The two brands are Apple and Nike. Never fails. It literally never. Those are the only, there's never been a class.
All the rest of the companies, you
can mix in and mix out. Those two without fail, right? So Apple being number one, again, it's not shocking. But Nike being 50 is a little shocking, right? Because
you got to look the investment club skew older.
True, great point. But how older, dog? Nike has been dominant for a long time.
Yeah, but as a company on the stock market, it hasn't been dominant. It's never
been. It's no way you could.
It wasn't even the biggest shoe company until recently.
There's no way you could have told me before I read this article that Raytheon Technologies would be ahead of Nike. No disrespect to them. They make a lot of money.
I would have told you that.
Salesforce, bro?
I don't know nothing about Salesforce, but I could have told you Nike. I could have told you Raytheon. Like, I know what Raytheon does. So
I understand, but I'm thinking, all right, let me go up, because I can even go up higher and tell you that I'm shocked that something is. I'm shocked that most of this stuff is ahead of Nike. Like, I really am. Like, Nike being this low, I would have thought that Nike would be top 10. So if I go back to the top 10, the ones that are shocking to me is probably Costco. Not really NVIDIA. No, I mean, not Costco, because
that's the biggest wholesale.
Yeah, it's the biggest wholesale.
Wally World.
Also, thinking about
where's Wally World?
Where is Walmart? Great point, Corey.
19.
It's 19, you said?
You said 19.
Yeah, it's number 19. Yeah. All right. That's shocking, though, too. Right? That's shocking.
Ahead of Wally World.
Anybody watching this, right? If you had to give me who you think would be the top 10 companies, like, give me a list of who you think would be top 10, because this is kind of wild. But that got the 50, yo. So I'm going to make sure I read through all the rest, because we do have folks listening on audio. All right. Number 51, UPS. Don't get mad. UPS is hiring. Then we have Adobe. And then we have Bank of America, Chevron, Medtronic. Medtronic is a healthcare company. TJX companies, right? Consumer cyclical. Block, which is Square. Ulta Beauty, Oracle, FedEx, General Electric, Amgen, Waste Management, 3M. Shout out to our brother Spoon. That's his favorite company. All the way at 64. Viatris, which is healthcare. Lockheed Martin. Shock. That's this.
Yeah, that's
always low. 66. Deere and Company, 67. MasterCard, 68. Delta Airlines, 69. And Horton being 70.
So there's two companies in there that I'm shocked that are that low. Well, three, really.
Well, Lockheed and what else?
Waste Management, Lockheed, and Deere. Actually,
and also this is weird, right? Because you said investment companies old, right? So I would think that General Electric would be higher too.
Nah, GE was in the dumps for a minute.
Yeah, but GE, dog.
I mean, listen, man. I know people who got like 20,000 shares of GE even after the split. Like,
because here's the thing, right? And I'm about to give my age because I'm old as hell. But the way that people look at Apple now is how when I first got into the game, people looked at GE. GE was it. Like when Jack Welch was running GE back in the 90s, GE was the company to have stock in. So
Yeah.
saying that they skew old, now maybe they just dumped it because of the trouble they went through post Jack Welch, but that's kind of shocking though. All right, let's get back to number 71. We got Warner Brothers, Walgreens at number 72, Comcast 73, General Motors 74, Tractor Supply 75, Union Pacific 76, ChargePoint Holdings 77, Bristol Myers Squibb 78, Mondelez is 79, and 80 is Vertex Pharmaceuticals. All right, here we go. Taiwan Semiconductor 81, Intuitive Surgical Inc. 82, Cognizant Technology Corp. All right, so it's funny that they get a lot of non-traditional names in these groups. 83, Constellation Brands, that's very low. 84, yeah. Shopify 85. Shopify is always 85. Applied Materials 86, Moderna 87, Generic Holdings 88, Yum Brands 89. I would have thought that'd be higher. CSX Corp 90. Danaher Corp 91, Duke Energy 92, Micron Technology 93, American Tower, that's low too, 94, yeah. Dollar Tree Inc. 95, Air Lease Corp 96, Airbnb 97, Eli Lilly 98, Honeywell at 99, and the final in the 100, Devon Energy Corp.
So now, there's two that shocked me for being low, and two that shocked me that's even on this list.
Which are
Airbnb and that shocked me that's even on this list. And ChargePoint. Why the hell ChargePoint get all the way up this joint? Like ChargePoint is all over this joint. I'm like, oh, so I am a little bit shocked about that. Like, I ain't even like when I was reading over the list, I wasn't even like I didn't even peep that ChargePoint was on this joint. So yeah, now I am a little bit shocked about that ChargePoint is on here.
I want to add context to something too, right? So AMT, American Tower, one of the biggest and best real estate companies in the world. Part of me is shocked, but part of me is not. And the reason I say not is because when you study investment groups and better investing, they tend to stay away from REITs. And that's for tax purposes. Because again, when you have an investment club, you have partners, and anyone who knows a REIT, REITs pay out 80 to 90% of all their income after expenses. So it gets to be a little tricky when you're breaking that down to an investment club. So they tend to stay away. Not that they don't buy them at all. Obviously, they don't. They do because AMT made the list. But that's the only reason why I see that it's not up there, right? Another thing I noticed about these investment clubs is they tend to skew heavy tech and a lot of oil companies. Yeah. That's kind of like, and I guess that goes to the hype of the whole technology sector. Also, to your point, you made an amazing point about how they skew older. They go over like, the second 100 companies, but I won't belabor the point by going into that. But overall, though, the list, like Corey said, it wasn't a lot. It was some things that shocked me. Or again, Meta not being up there. But I think it's interesting to always take a look at something like this because, I mean, it's another data point, right? It's another data point. It gives you an idea of what people who invest in clubs, what kind of companies they're looking at. And then you can go from there to break down companies. I still maintain most of us shouldn't be buying individual companies, right? And that's not to say that you can't, right? Don't get me wrong, because if you're going to take the time, you can, outperform them. I'm not saying you can't outperform the market, although I am saying you can't outperform the market. And the reason I say that again is because
you're going to buy too many companies.
I'm looking at data, right? And data tells me that most people, when you go back and look at those studies where they always say that managers don't beat the market, a lot of it is emotions. You know how difficult it is to sit and look at your portfolio go down? That's the thing, right? And a lot of people are just getting into investing over the last decade or so. So you have to go through.
They've never seen their portfolio go in a dumpster.
Yeah, you gotta you don't know when you wake up and you down 6 figures. You know how difficult that is to wake up and be down 6 figures, right? Most people act rash. I've seen people just close out their whole account, right? But the thing about when you stick to just buying, I always use VU. I know some people like VTI by the total stock market is nothing really to run out of. What you gonna run to? You just keep buying. Yeah. So you kind of take the emotions out of it with what I'm saying. But if you are going to take the time, it's a good place to start. Those 100 companies are all great, big, powerful companies. It wasn't a lot of small cap, a lot of large cap on there, some mid cap.
That's why I was surprised ChargePoint was on there.
Yeah. So actually, in a meeting yesterday, I spoke with someone who is she is the representative of the Philadelphia region of Better Investing, and she said that when you take like some of their classes or whatever, they have a philosophy where it's like 50 25 25. So they kind of like you buy 50 large, 25 mid, and 25 small. And the idea is that you get a lot of growth. You have your stability with the one, but you still get a lot of growth by being in small cap. So you will see some small caps make the list, but everything still skews to the large cap stocks. So with that being said, man, Corey, any last words about that list?
Yeah, I mean, it was chalk. You know what I mean? It was like, you know what I mean? Like
It was like
all the blue bloods blue bloods was right there at them in the
like a
final
90s
four.
college basketball bracket. Give me Duke, Kansas, Carolina.
Yeah, like that joint was
dude.
chalk. Like all the chalk was at the top.
Hey, Syracuse. You can't do that. Like, look at college basketball now, though. Ain't no chalk.
Man. Like 8, 9 seeds is in the final four. Like ain't no number 1 seeds in the joint.
No chalk.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. That's why I said, like, through my first glance, I didn't see charge point. So, but on my second glance, I'm like, damn, like that's the only one that shocked me that was in there at all.
Yeah, man.
Like the rest of them joints, I could see because I'm in the market a lot. I know what a lot of these companies do, and I've studied a lot of the the financials of these companies because you know how I got into the market. Through Weirdo Old Head. That we But one thing he did teach us to do was to study the companies and break them down. So there's a lot of companies in there that got a lot of good, that's making money. So you could look at that list and say, yeah, a lot of these investment clubs are doing pretty well. You know what I mean? Those are the companies that they're buying. So good. Shout out to y'all on the Better Investing website. Y'all doing yeoman's work out there.
Yeah, shout to that. And also, if anybody's looking to get has interest in our investment club, or if they want to start your own investment club, because we'll give you the blueprint on how to do that too. Hit us up. You can send us an email, buythehoodllc@gmail.com. Don't forget the LLC, buythehoodllc@gmail.com, or at buythehood on all socials, man. But this is an interesting article. Want to make sure I share it with everybody. Again, this is what the magazine looks like. You can look it up online. Better Investing Top 100 Companies. And it's more context in terms of in that article about but we just went over our specific thoughts on some of those companies. And shout out to Apple, man. Apple, yo, dog. I don't know, because again, me and Corey told you our perspective when working with the youth, but working with adults, it's the same thing. Everybody loves Apple, dog.
I still get yelled at because I don't got the right color bubbles.
But from not only like it's just amazing to see how they're perceived not only by Main Street but by Wall Street. Like Apple's everybody's darling, dog, and it's just interesting to see that.
I mean, it's a well-run company too. It's not just that it's
it is.
Tim Cook is very well run.
Tim Cook is really that guy, and the thing about it is, I know that in history it'll be Steve Jobs or whatever, but from a business standpoint, Tim Cook was the right person at the right time. You gotta give Jobs credit for that too, because he picked him, so he knew what he was doing. With that being said, though, it's just amazing to see how they're perceived and the value that they provide to the marketplace, dog. Like it's an interesting study. I don't know what's gonna knock them off the top, but again, I remember having those same thoughts about GE, and I know it sounds crazy now. But GE was making so much money at one point, bro, that they started getting into stuff that they had no business getting into because they didn't have anything else to do with their money. They talk about like refrigerators and electronics. That's kind of what they were, they start getting mortgages, bro.
Yeah, and that's what did them in.
They got into the healthcare sector. They were just jumping all over the place, bro. They had so much money. They was like, what are we going to do? Like, all right, let's lend some.
Their biggest sector isn't even in that stuff now. Their biggest sector is wind energy.
Yeah, I'm just saying they got back in the day. They were so dominant. They had money all over the place. This got into everything, man. So I mean, but Apple is really they that company.
The thing that Apple does, why a lot of investors get into them, because Apple reinvests into itself, right? So because what happens is what they'll do is they'll do a lot of stock buybacks and then they do stock splits. So what they'll do, Apple does that better than any other company on the market. They reinvest into their stock, into their shareholders, right? And that's the one thing that a lot of companies on the market don't do very well.
And another thing I'll say about Apple is, like, we know about the code of Apple in terms of their products, but well-run company, great products. I just I'm just, as someone who looks at business and business history, I just want to see, like, I mean, again, the thing about businesses, and this is another reason, going back to my original point about buying, is that Corey's point about Elon Musk is true about somebody having that much power, right? But that's why if you are at the top, you have to name your successors and people. You have to groom people to take over for you.
They've done a good job of that too.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens as time moves on, because it could always be you lose a key person and that could change everything. But right now, they are the most dominant company, and it's interesting for me because it wasn't always that way. Again, a lot of folks in our group have just got into investing over the last couple of years, but
I think
I
there
remember they were the underdog.
I think there are companies that have a bigger moat that are near them, but they're not as well run as Apple. And not that they're badly run, they're just not as well run. And so because to me, Google is the best company. Like Google, like they have things that Apple hasn't gotten to yet.
Well, now I guess it's debatable, right? It is debatable. It's almost like, you like Nas or Jay-Z. It's debatable.
Yeah, no. It is debatable, but what I'm saying is, like, I love the way Google innovates and gets into things. But Apple is a cult, bro. Like, it's just a cult.
That's what I'm saying. So you can't really compare. But what I'm saying is, let me finish this point though. The point I was making is that they weren't always dominant. When I was younger, they were the underdog. It was Microsoft was the bully. And
Microsoft was mushing everybody.
Well, only the creatives use Apple products. Like most folks, the average consumer didn't use Apple products when I was coming up. Remember those old commercials, which worked very well. Like, I'm a Mac, he's a PC, and the PC dude was in like a 3-piece suit looking all stuffy, and the Mac had his t-shirt on. Like, I remember those days. And slowly but surely, dog, when that iPhone hit, that was a wrap. First it was the iPod, but when that iPhone hit, that changed everything, bro. That changed everything. That was a game changer, and Microsoft never was able to come up with a phone that matched that. But the thing about the whole Google comparison is, we'll see how Google owns YouTube, right? And we're on YouTube saying this. So shout out to everybody on YouTube. Shout out to YouTube. We love and appreciate all YouTube. But search is their bread and butter. That's their baby, right? And they're got a competitor in the search market. They're getting their first real challenge now, right? Not only from a use standpoint, but from a brand standpoint, because that's all you hear these days. Because of so we'll see. This will be interesting over the next several years to see how they fight this back, how they combat it. But one of the things about businesses is always interesting to watch, because they be really out here rumbling. It's like a sport in itself.
Yeah, they be scrapping.
Yeah. So with that being said, man,
just took a swipe at Google, like, yeah.
So give us some feedback. Let us know what you think about the top 100. If you had, matter of fact, here's a question I asked about your top 10, right? We did this before with me, you, and Kamari asked this question, right? In the comment section, wherever you're watching this, give me your top 5 companies.
All right, let's do our top 5. You do your top 5. Top 5.
No. But I want to get. We'll come back. We can make that a whole other show. But let's see what the folks tell us right now. Give us your top 5. We're gonna talk about it like as MCs, Core. We're gonna hold that off for me and you. But in the comment section, tell us your top 5, and we'll go from there. But anyway, man, I ain't got the last words. Man, you got anything you want to say for your brother?
Yeah, man. Pay attention. Like, it's a lot of flammery and tomfoolery and shiggity going on out here, man. Like, especially in these in the streets, man. Like, pay attention to legislation, things that will affect your stock portfolio. Legislation. Pay attention to the money supply, which is the Fed Reserve, and pay attention to world politics, man. Like, you gotta, it's not just looking at the companies. You gotta know what's going on in the world, because a lot of these companies are multinational, they're global, and so if you don't know what's going on in the world, companies that you think are good companies are going to be assed out, and then some of these companies some company you never heard of is going to rise from the ashes to be, great. So you got to be very, very careful putting together your portfolio. Just be very, very, cognizant and aware of what's going on.
All right, I ain't gonna leave it. I'm gonna leave it at that, man. That was some good information right there, man. Listen, as we always say, it's not about how much money you make; it's about how much you keep. Game elevates, and we'll see you guys in our next episode. Peace.